Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. It's after lunch. So in the morning, if I give a talk, I just fill it with as much information as I can. But after lunch, that's not fair, because otherwise they need to provide pillows, and you put your head on your neighbor's shoulder and all of that. So there's a little bit of interactiveness in this. There's some music videos. It's a slower pace kind of a thing. We will, of course, cover Shu Hari. But what I want to do just in the first 5 minutes is, without giving you any particular description more than the word guest leadership. Guest leadership is an interesting word because it implies that the guests are the leaders. And this is interesting for many reasons, one of which is that at a party there are 20 guests for one host. In a corporation there are 20 employees for one manager. So there are many more guests than there are leaders. It's really interesting to think if the guests take the leadership moment. And people take leadership moments all the time. You could be on an airplane or a train, and there's somebody who's short and can't put their thing in the overhead compartment, right? And then if you're tall enough or whatever, you stand up and you help the person put the thing up. That's a moment of leadership, when you step out of your normal role into a moment of leadership. Or to take, that's a solo leadership. There's no followers, but you get out of the subway, the metro, the thingy in Paris, right, where there's lots of steps, and there's a mother with a stroller, an infant, and with 2 suitcases, and looking at the steps, right? So maybe you stop and you get somebody else, and there's 2 or 3 of you, and you help carry the strollers up to the top of the steps. You carry the suitcases up to the top of the steps. So the person who does that is a leader for a moment, yeah. Or it could be you're having a party, and maybe you notice that the bread needs slicing, so you start slicing the bread. Or you've run out of beer, typical thing in the US, and you organize a beer run. Okay, let's make a beer run. Okay, who wants what? And somebody collects orders, and then a couple of you, right? That's a moment of leadership. In your neighborhood, somebody initiates a neighborhood cleanup. And I have to just say, I find that really disturbing to have the big, I'm sorry, you'd think I'd be used to cameras by now, but I don't see any of you. All I see is this round thing following me around everywhere, and I can't even think of the next sentence. There was one place, it was really cool. The guy was trying to be surreptitious, sneaky. And all I know, I'm talking, and I see the camera poking out from behind here, and the camera poking out from behind here, and he's lying down in the alleyway and poking cameras at me like that. That's all I saw the whole time. So I'm sorry. You take the pictures you need to, but just don't stand in the middle, or else these guys won't get any lecture at all. That's very fine. Neighborhood cleanup. Somebody decides that you're going to have a block party or a cleanup party or something like that. And so that's moments of leadership that from somebody who's not designated as a leader. So people step out of whatever their daily life is or their job description is, and take a moment where they're the leader for a few minutes, hours, whatever, and then they go back to being themselves. So what I'd like you guys to do is to turn to a neighbor. You can get in groups of 2, or if you like, you can get in groups of 3, and just for a few minutes, I'll give you 3-4 minutes, see if you can think of some times when you stepped forward. What was it at that moment such that you decided, okay, I'll step forward, I'll take this one. I'm going to do this. Look at that, and if you have time, maybe look at a similar situation where you decided not to. So what's interesting is to try to work out, why is it we step forward? What triggered us at that moment to say, yeah, I'm taking that one. And maybe in a similar moment, I'm not taking that one. Go ahead and discuss that with your neighbors, see where you get to in a couple of minutes. We'll revisit this at the end. Yeah, that's one way to stop it. So Bianca is going to be so kind and run up and down a little bit. There's only one of her, and she doesn't have her track. She does have track shoes on. Just to hear what some of the things are, the thing that triggered you. So could we just get a hand up or two, somewhere close to the aisle maybe, so she can get you the mic? Yeah, we have over here somebody.
So we would like step up when we want something really badly to happen,
Well,
but
we
like
want-
we know nobody's gonna do anything, then we just like
Okay,
check the leadership.
that's one. Let's hear another one. Let's see if we can get,
Well,
maybe
I'll take the other one then. The other day I asked a few kids to move the place where they were playing because I thought they were going to injure themselves. That's a good reason for me to step up.
Okay. Right down here, yeah. Make her run. People in the back, raise your hand. Make her run.
Yeah, so we managed to handle that. If some circle of persons stay in there and looking on something and cannot decide if do or not to do something, it's pressure growing up with the time. So this pressure applies to each of these persons.
Time pressure, if there's some time pressure involved.
And we all think, okay, probably I should do it because no one does this. And at some point, this pressure just breaks the resistance
Good.
of each person.
Thank you. Let's find another one. Somebody else? You guys are all talking, so maybe you have anything, I don't know. Maybe you just had a nice talk, which is also fine.
I think besides rational reasons, there's a very strong emotional reason. It's more or less a decision from, in German we say from the stomach. I don't know if it's a correct translation in English. And it highly depends on your current situation. Sometimes you feel like supporting other people or helping other people.
So my question, that's all very general. My only question is, yes, it's from the stomach, it depends, we got all of that. What is the thing that you can recall that you decided to do something? Pick one instance where you did decide to go and try to work out. What was it in that moment that you said, yeah, I'm taking that one?
Okay, because I wanted to support some people and I was
Very
feeling
good.
I could help them and I want to do something
Thank
for
you.
myself.
Beautiful. Wanted to support some people. We had a hand right here. The microphone is staying down here.
Yeah, so I think typically we assess the risks involved.
I don't generalize, right? Don't like, we and the nature of humankind. No, just give me one for you. What made you choose to go forward at some moment?
Well, sometimes I make a suggestion, and I think it's a good initiative because this is very likely to succeed. So if that goes wrong, I won't be blamed for failure or something.
Likely to succeed. So you're more likely to step up if you think you might succeed.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And we have, let's take one or two more. Let's see, we have one right there on the left, yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's not only a factor of that I feel that it's the best thing to do, but it's also when I feel that other people are ready for me to do it, so to say. So I kind of sense what's going on and I think, okay, this is the right thing to do.
When you sense that other people are ready for you to do it. We'll just take one more. There's a man with a hand right over here. I'm easy. Yeah.
The actual example is that I stepped up to start a coding dojo at my company to help the other guys learn the basic skills for...
So my question for you, you created a coding dojo. You could have not done that. And at that moment you decided to do it. And in both cases you want the people to learn this coding dojo thing. Can you recall at that moment that you just go, yeah, it's going to take some personal time of mine, but yeah, I'm going to do it. What tips you over the edge right there?
Motivations like management or appreciating my job and also me learning by that. So
okay, good, thank you.
So
just take this back. Now, we do these things that are in Scrum are called retrospectives. I don't call them retrospectives, I call them reflection workshops. Retrospectives implies looking backwards. I'm not really interested in looking backwards. I'm a looking forwards kind of a guy. But if we generalize this concept of retrospective for a moment, it's to this reflection workshop. There's a moment in time when you have maybe an hour and you're not coding or designing or testing or whatever you normally do. You're all together as a team and you can use this time together to do interesting things, to learn about each other and make the working together work better. And so this is one of the kinds of questions that you could float in one of these sessions. Hey, I heard about this thing, guest leadership. What causes people to step forward and take initiative? And just float that question. And what causes them to not? So I'm doing this in all of my advanced Agile classes. I do this in various workshops. I'm trying to understand this thing, creating a culture where people feel safe, feel inclined to take initiative for things. Now imagine if everybody in your neighborhood or everybody in your family or everybody in your company was doing this, you can imagine that things are going to go a lot faster. So this idea of guest leadership is something we find in the more successful companies. Okay? So that's just a placeholder, that's a marker, and now you're going to get the irrevocable Shu Ha discussion and the Heart of Agile. So if we could step forward. The reason for doing this Heart of Agile, I was called on by a colleague to really solidify this concept a couple of years ago, is that Agile has just become too complicated. And Scrum has got all these rules, and no matter what you do, everywhere you look, there's the rules of Agile. And it wasn't ever intended to be that way. You know, it was very complicated. Software development was very complicated in the 90s. And then around 2000, you know, Bob Martin, who's sitting right here, called a meeting and said, I think that we've got something in common, let's talk about it. And we simplified it down to basically 4 statements. 4 values of the manifesto. And then it got all complicated again. So I'm here to make it super simple again. I claim all you need are these 4 words. This is the collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve methodology. My intention is to make it so short that you can't not see it. There's an ad in the US from GEICO Insurance. I love this. It's a YouTube ad. They have this little lizard that goes around. So I click on this thing in YouTube, and I can see it says GEICO, right? And it shows this family coming to sit around a table. And I'm looking, how you find that skip ad button, and it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, like this. And I'm not seeing the skip ad button. I'm looking for the skip ad button. And then I see a little sign on the screen that says, this ad is so short, you can't skip it. Right? So the ad's 4 seconds long. That's brilliant. Everybody should make a 4-second ad, right? Then you can't, you just get, put it right there. So this is my methodology that's so simple, you can't skip it. You already have been inflicted with it. It's 4 words. All you have to do, I claim, all you have to do is collaborate. You collaborate to deliver. Collaborate gets your ideas together. The delivery gives you feedback. Then you reflect. Most of us don't reflect very well, but okay, you reflect. And then you improve. So you collaborate to deliver, you reflect to improve. Now, in a sense, you collaborate, you reflect on the collaboration, and you improve the collaboration. You deliver, you reflect on the delivery, you improve the delivery. Well, there's a couple of loops in there, right? But that's it, right? You can't skip it. Collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve. I can't make it any simpler than this. This is the simplest, whoosh. So I'm going to talk about that, the origin of that, the implications of that, and end up back in guest leadership. And allegedly I have a clicker. Let's see if I can make this thing work. So I was a certified Scrum Master in 2008, and basically Ken Schwaber and his crew said, yeah, do you know enough about Scrum? And I passed that test. And they said, well, do you know how to teach? And I passed that test. So, well, if you know how to Scrum and you know how to teach, go teach. So I was a certified Scrum trainer. Then I let it lapse, and then when I wanted it back again, at some point, I said, I need to get that back again. There were 104 learning objectives, so they sent me a spreadsheet with 104 learning objectives. And I had to answer for every learning objective, on what slide or in which exercise was this learning objective delivered, right? 104 learning objectives in 2 days is like 1 every 5 minutes or something. I don't even know how to do that. I mean, I do that because I'm a certified Scrum trainer, but I don't know how. My point being, Scrum is not supposed to be that complicated. There's a thing I have on I won't go through it right now, I do it in my classes. Scrum on a Post-it note. Scrum is we'll get to in a minute. Scrum is defined in 5 sentences. You don't need more than 5 sentences. And I hope they turn all the cameras off just for a moment. I'm going to tell you a little secret. You can pass the certified Scrum Master test just from my 5 sentences, right? So in my CSM classes, I give the 5 sentences. In principle, they could take the exam right then. Doesn't matter. I have to go through my 104 learning objectives. I'm a good citizen and all of that stuff. My point being, it doesn't have to be that complicated. And people are arguing, they feel straitjacketed by this Scrum thing. Scrum is so loose, it gives you so much space and so much freedom. We shouldn't be here. But we're here, and I know why, and we discuss it and all the rest, but that's it. Now, the antidote, I just discovered, is if you go here. Scrum certification, $29, cheap certification, free book. Be Scrum certified in 1 hour, 100% pass rate or refund. I don't even know who these people are, but how can you turn down a deal like that? If you want your cert, just go get it. So on the one side, we've got like too much, and the other side, we've got too little. What we're trying to find is a space where we can function, and that's going to give me my lecture. Here's the Shu Ha part. So many people have heard of it, but haven't like gone through it. So I'm going to go through it very slowly with some videos, just to like, you know, it's after lunch, animate this up a little bit. And I'm going to take diving as my example. So Shu comes from, the Shu Ha thing comes from Aikido, Japanese Aikido. And they got it from Japanese theater, you know, in the 1700s and stuff like that. And the words mean, Shu means follow, Ha means break, and Ri means leave. The idea here is when you go to a dojo, and I don't do Aikido, so I'm going to use karate moves. Like, I don't know my Aikido stuff, but I have taken some Taekwondo. So anyway, you go to a Taekwondo dojo, and you walk in, and the master is going, all that stuff, right? You don't ask at that point, excuse me, what if the person's taller than you? What am I supposed to do then? No, you copy the master. You follow the master. You don't ask any questions. You don't make any changes. You just try to copy. Now this, it turns out, is general skills acquisition level 1. Whenever you start a new skill, you say, how do I do that? And the person says, well, you do this, da-da-da-da. My very first split A/B testing, I don't know how to do split A/B testing. I'm going to say, how do I do that? My very first paper prototyping session, I don't know how to do paper prototyping. I'm going to say, how do I do that, right? My very first TDD, whatever, right? So you come in this doorway marked Shu, and you say, how do I do that? And someone tells you this thing, and then you copy it, right? Your first time making bread, pastry, right? Whatever it is that you're cooking with. You say, how do I do it? And you get the recipe and you copy it. That's normal. That's normal. And that's Shu. Rhymes with shoe like a shoe. So we make fun of the, you know, we make puns in English with the word shoe. So the one I use is the word of a shoebox. So the people learn a shoe level technique. They fall in love with it. They're never ever going to change it. And they make a little nest in the shoebox. And they never leave the shoebox. They're boxed in by the shoe technique. Okay, and I'm just going to illustrate it right here. Let's just say there's two basic ways to tie shoelaces, and I'm looking around and a lot of people have shoelaces still. Two basic ways to tie shoelaces. One of them, you make a loop, and then you sort of like go around the tree and down the hole, right, and pull it through. How many people tie their shoes that way? Around a tree? Oh, good. Yeah, less than half. Interesting. The other dominant way is you make a loop and then you make another loop. So you tie a half knot and then you make 2 loops and you tie another half knot. How many people do the 2 bunny ears method, as it's called? And a lot of people are not admitting anything. That's fair enough. That's okay. That's okay. Now, here's the next question. Those of you who do round the tree and through the hole, how many have never tried the 2 bunny ear method? Fess up. More hands that went up, you know, even for doing it. Okay, let's just reverse it. Those of you who do the bunny ears, how many of you have never tried the round the hole, round the tree and down the hole? Uh-huh. I see we have some homework for tonight. Or in a break. I love it. Like, find the person who does the other kind of shoelace tying and trade shoelace tying. It's fun. Okay, so we're illustrating the tyranny of the shoebox, right? You learned one way to tie a shoelace, and you go, I'm done. I never need to know another one. So that's Shu. And here I have a picture of this kid, and he's going to dive. And, you know, we teach kids how to dive, and we say you get to the end of the board, and you bend over, and you get all those things. So if they'll only do that, they'll just fall forward and dive and be safe, right? Of course, when I do this, the kids always get scared. They straighten up. They hit on the water like this. They go, no, 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 no. But anyway, we teach them a Shu-level technique for diving. Does anybody dive like this in the Olympics? Do they have the lean forward and fall into the water event in the Olympics? I scanned the internet. I could not find any examples of professional divers. No, nobody dives like this, right? Even kids, like the second day, they're not going to do that a third day, right? They're done with that. So shoe-level techniques have got their limitations, right? You get comfy in your shoebox, but in fact, the whole point of a shoe level is to be broadly applicable. Broadly applicable means suboptimal. It's not likely to be optimal in any one circumstance, but is generally applicable. Okay, that's Shu. I don't have more to say about Shu at this moment. We'll go on to the next level. The next level is Ha. Ha means break. So that's when you break away from the one technique. And in a general skills acquisition context, it would be collect techniques. So Shu means learn one technique. Collect means, Ha means collect techniques. So I was looking for an example for this in diving, and I was in New Zealand, and I went to the home of the bungee jump, the Kauai Bridge or whatever it's called, and I did this, and I said, okay, that's a good example of Ha. And by the way, I still get vertigo when I look at this picture because I know how far down that boat is down at the bottom. We have a video on this, and we've got an operator at the back whose name have I forgotten. And if you could start the first one, and he's going to maximize it, and we'll let it run for a bit. The Kokoro Bridge. So this thing, look at this, it's 43 meters up, it's been there for 30 years, this is the home of bungee jump. So you go out there, it's really scary. You sign a toe tag when you go in, they give you a toe tag to fill out, that's what they put on your corpse. So I asked these guys, and I said, hey, can I do a back dive? No. Can I do a flip? No. Can I do a twist? No. Can I do a back flip? No. What can I do? Just dive. So I just had my re-tattoo. You'll see I just barely had gotten my re-tattoo, a little bit before. So you'll see that. So I'm thinking about this and going, okay, I have a selection of techniques that I can choose from. I'll pick one from my library of techniques. So I just chose this one. What can you do? They're not going to let you do anything, so I'll just do that. And if you try to touch the water, they put the stronger bands on me so I couldn't touch the water. And I'm just going to let this run for a minute just to see, so you can see the technology they use to bring you back. After 30 years, they have this rickety wooden staircase and a rope and a yellow raft. And they put the raft down and then they pull the rope back up. So it's just kind of fun. There they are. After 30 years, there's the rickety steps. There's the yellow raft. There's me doing sit-ups because, if you're type A obsessed and you're hanging upside down from a rope, well, what am I supposed to do with my time now? Oh, sit-ups. I guess I'll do sit-ups. Sit-ups, yeah. Then you grab the pole and you go down the pole and into the boat. It's very weird. And boom, and out. All right, so thank you very much for the video. Can we go back to the presentation then? See if, good deal. So that's Ha, so you collect techniques. Now, the next stage, if you get there, if and when you get to the next stage, it's when you leave the dojo. Re means leave. You leave the dojo, you're done with the master. This is the level when you know something so well, you don't think about it. It's automatic. And you do something different every time. It's a full body experience, right? You can't say what you did. There's no time to think. Everything's moving at one time. You might call this unconscious competence. It's just a happening thing. Any of you who do cooking, whatever your cooking specialty is, you just do it. You look at ingredients, right? When you ask somebody who's a re-level cook and you say, oh, this is really tasty, what did you put in it? And they go, I don't know, whatever was in the kitchen. They give you terrible instructions when you cook. Any of you made candies are particularly terrible because you stir this thing, the sugary mess, to make some candy or fudge, and you stir till it gets a particular level of thickness, which is till it's hard to stir, and the surface is glossy. I don't know what that means. What does glossy mean? What does hard to stir mean? And it's useless because one of these people says, well, you add something to taste, right? Stir till it looks good. That's re-level people. They can't do it because they're in a full body experience all the moment. Every moment they're doing something different. So here's the thing. Re is the opposite. It's antagonistic to Shu. Shu says, give me one technique that's broadly applicable and I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to boom, 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 boom. It might be suboptimal, but I'm in safe space. Re is, I'm going to do something different depending on very tiny cues from the environment, it'll be always optimum for the moment. And I'm going to give you a methodology example of this just to like bring it back to software for a minute. I was in Nokia in the good old days, and they had some UI designers in Helsinki. They had a Scrum team in Beijing. And they said, the problem is, Alistair, that we can't, the Beijing team won't make a sprint commitment because the UI designers keep changing the spec all the time. And I said, that's okay. There's a technique. It's called pipelining. It's like a mini waterfall thing, but the official name is pipelining. The UI designers do their work, for 2 weeks, and then they freeze their design. They ship it to Beijing. The people in Beijing, they've got like a frozen spec. They say what they can do in 2 weeks. Nothing changes. It's good. And then after 2 weeks, they get the update to the spec, and you just keep repeating that. It's not the most optimal thing in the world, but it works, and it's called pipelining, and you can do it. And they said, yeah, but we sent the designers to Beijing, and they didn't have any trouble keeping up. And I said, well, of course not. That's completely different. That's how people speak. Well, that's completely different, right? Because there's a conversation every day in the office, in the hallway, and the Beijing programmers, the Chinese programmers, hear the UI designers talking about the changes they're going to make. It's in the conversation, and they're integrating it all the time. And finally, the UI designers say, okay, let's go with this, right? So the Chinese programmers have been in the conversation all like they just, and they just change it. It's not a big deal. That's very different compared to when the evil overlords in Finland have changed the spec again, right? You come to work and the evil overlords in Finland have changed the spec again. I hate them, right? So I said, look, you run 2 strategies when your UI designers are in Beijing. You do a fully concurrent strategy. And when they're in Helsinki, you use a pipeline strategy. They're just 2 strategies. But you see that these 2 strategies are exact opposites of each other. And this is the same people, the same company, the same problem, the same domain, the same month. All we did was to move 2 heads from here to here, and we run the opposite strategy. So that's right? You're just like, oh, well, just do this or make something up, right, in the moment. Re-level people make stuff up in the moment, and then you go like, what was that? And then they try to tell you, and then a technique is born, and then it becomes process, and then it becomes dogma, and then it goes on my Scrum list of things I have to teach, right? And then you guys all feel shackled. I hate Scrum because it makes me ask these 3 questions. Ken Schwaber, in 2008, I co-taught with Ken Schwaber to see how he taught. And he said, I'm so sorry I wrote down those 3 questions. If I had to answer those 3 questions for the rest of my life, I would just get out of the business, right? But it's been helpful. People say, what are we supposed to do? Oh, there are these 3 questions. Try these 3 questions, right? So the re-level Scrum is very loose, like Heart of Agile. Collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve. That pretty much sums up Scrum, too. Right? But then people say, what am I supposed to do? And then it gets hardening of the artery. So we're going to get a video now. If we can pull up the video. This is the cliff in Nice, at the end of the street in Nice. I love this cliff. It's my favorite place. And I go there, and I do 1 or 2 dives a year. There's a sign up top that says diving forbidden for very obvious reasons, like you'll kill yourself. And you'll see, of course, all of the kids up there diving off there anyway. So just a little note, the first time I was there, and I was looking at this thing, and it's about 7 or 8 meters up, and you have to go out 7 or 8 meters, and you have to clear the rocks and land in the right spot and stuff like that. And so I was thinking about this, and I asked this kid, I said, can you jump off so I can see how you do that? And he takes a running jump and jumps off. Now look at that. And the guy next to me, French guy, says to me, that's not for people our age. And I thought to myself, that's not for people your age. So here's the video. This is the second time I ever did it, and it's right? You only get 1 try at this. You only get 1 try. There's no safety net. There's no, yay, I lived. My little sister hates it, and they're the flip-flops. The flip-flops come off. Can we run this backwards, please? So the guy back there has been practicing, and we're going to run it backwards just so I can single step. I love that. 1 more. Pause right there. Thank you. So here's the thing. I look at this video, and I was trying to figure out what's happening. So at the moment of takeoff, horizontal distance is a given, right? There's nothing you can do about horizontal distance at this moment in time. Turns out the only thing you can change is your speed of rotation. And this goes so fast, obviously there's no conscious brain happening in this. This is like the body just does stuff. This is really re. Can we single step a little bit here? And so you'll see I'll bend my body position here. One more. Doom, doom, doom. I love this one. It looks like I just fell out of a balloon right there. And then like so, and I go, yeah, is it good enough? And then keep going. And then no, it's not good enough. More rotation, stuff, thing, good. It's good. Boom. And then it works out, right? So it works out. So that's re, right? You can't teach that. You can't, right? You do it or you don't do it. Thank you for that. We'll go back to the slideshow. Just another example of re, one that I like. My son was about 12 years old, and so I was having him make bread. Bread is good because the kids can pound it, and you want the gluten to come out. So he's there, and he's slamming and pounding this thing like this. And I call up my wife, and my wife was driving across town in one of those suburban mom vans, soccer mom vans, right? So she's on the highway, and I call her up and I say, what temperature do I set it to? And she says, it needs more water. How good is that? So she could hear the sound of the dough hitting the counter in the background while she's driving, and she says, it needs more water. So I listened a bit, and you can actually hear the difference. I go, okay, got it. Now you know what temperature I set the water to. That's re, right? So re and shu are opposites. They're antagonistic. You're always going to have people coming in new. They're always going to need a shu-level technique, right? Have one handy. Give it to them, and then after a while, kick them out of the shoebox, right? And you need some re-level people because you're doing globally competitive initiatives. You can't be running everything off of shu-level techniques. That's Shu, Ha, Re. So Re is the top of the performance curve, right? Things get more complicated, you get better. They get complicated, you get better. And I love that the Japanese characters mirror this complexity as you go from Shu to Ha to Re. So I'm going to show you Kokoro next, but people think that if there's a fourth thing, it's better, and it's not. It's different. But I wanted to stay inside the Japanese tradition if I could. Just for fun and see if I can do that. And I found this word, Kokoro. Kokoro means heart or essence, and that's why I talk about the heart of Agile. It's the heart or the essence. And the people who are teachers, who've been in the business for a long time, look for ways to simplify things down. So Re is a performance level. Kokoro is a teaching level. Now, have you guys seen the Karate Kid movie, the original one? The original, raise your hand just so I get good, because one day my audience is going to be so young, none of them will have seen it. So you guys have all just age-defined yourself, because even if you saw it on a rerun, you still thought it worth seeing, all right? So Mr. Miyagi, right? Wax on, wax off, paint the fence. Wax on, wax off, paint the fence. This is a Kokoro level teacher. They're really annoying, because all they ever say is master the basics. Yes, but what if the wind is blowing in the sleet and there's a tree behind? Just master the basics. And if he's taller than me and has a knife, just master the basics, right? Really annoying people. So this is what I'm doing with the Heart of Agile. All you need is 4 words. Collaborate. If you just collaborate better, it'll go better. You know that. Deliver less, sooner, and learn. Learn to reflect. That's kind of a mystery for many people. And then have many small improvements, many small improvements all the time. So those are the basics. If you just do that, then, if I've got this one here, 1 second. I'll come back to the video in just a moment. What happens is there's a second doorway in. So I'm trying to create a second doorway into Agile that doesn't require 104 learning objectives. I claim that in your organization, you know if you're collaborating or not. You know darn well if you're you know at what level. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you collaborating? How's the collaboration in your team? Most people say 7 or 8. How's the collaboration between your team and other groups in the company? Most people say 3 or 4. Do you actually know what it is you could do unilaterally on your own to improve collaboration? Of course you do. Right? There's no mystery. We're adults. We know this stuff. So this is Kokoro. Just collaborate better. I don't care what you're using for a framework or a strategy or a method, just collaborate better. Deliver less, sooner and more often to learn better, reflect, and improve. That's it. Now, to get the video for this, I looked around. Let's see if I can get this to happen. Could we have the video number 3, please? So this is the same cliff a couple of years later. And the thing about this is just there's no motion in the dive. There's none of that wiggling. So we'll just go ahead and look. And it's in slow-mo, which is nice. And there's nothing, right? Nothing, 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 nothing. And the super cool is I actually had a police officer video for this for me, because it was supposed to be illegal. And I tried to show it to his boss, and his boss said, it's not allowed to dive off of there. And I said, it's okay, I don't need to dive anymore. I have the video now, so I'm done with diving. All right, good. Let's go back to the slideshow. So that's Shu, Ha, and Kokoro. And what I'm after is something so simple that anybody can do it. It gives you freedom. You don't have to have the daily stand-up. You don't have to ask the 3 questions. You have to do something that covers the dangers, right? However you do it, don't worry about it. Just improve the collaboration, improve the delivery, reflect, and improve. So that's that. So now I was asking myself the question, is this it? I'm going to go around the world for the next 5 years and sell 4 words. And the answer, by the way, is yes. And then I said, but is there more? And the answer is, there's actually more. And I've tried to make mind maps of this. And everything fits inside of this. So in 2015, if this had been 2015, you would have all had a piece of paper on your chair, and we would have spent the first 5 minutes of the keynote tearing it up and making this little folding device that has the heart of Agile in it, and we would play with it and so on. So that's a way of making a mind map, is to expand it. And in that expansion, I'm just going to show you, it expands out a lot. So inside of the collaborate, you've got the actual act of collaboration. I've got collaboration cards that have a Shu level technique for improving collaboration. You have to discuss trust, what increases and decreasing trust. You have to discuss motivation, which brings you to rewards, which brings you to executive bonuses, being conflicting rewards, and how that affects collaboration, right? All of that's in collaboration. From delivery, you get all the internal aspects of delivery. That's all the lean Kanban stuff. So more or less lean Kanban University fits in that thing, internal flow. And you get bottleneck stations and work in progress and queues and hard whip limits and all of that kind of stuff, right? That's all in internal flow. I'm more interested these days in the external. You deliver for income. We have stage delivery, incremental funding, all of that kind of stuff. But the frontier in the last couple of years is delivering for learning. Delivering for learning. And I don't think I have time to go through that in this particular lecture, but it shows up. These slides, by the way, are on my website. You go to my website and you just look for the keyword latest, because the title of this is Heart of Agile, latest. So if I make changes, I just always have the same URL. So just go find the latest talk. And you'll find the expansions with disciplined learning and lean production and lots of stuff. Right? So this expands out. We're bringing in solutions focus, psychotherapy and coaching from the psychology world. We're bringing in lots of new things, and they find interesting ways of slotting into these 4 words. What I want to do, in sort of like 4 or 5 minutes that we have, is just to flip through. I'm going to go through it super quickly so you can see the existence of these things, just to get to the one that I want to mention before the end of my time here. So there's internal flow and the AHA. This is all written up in my book from 2006, so it's like really old stuff. Design looks like manufacturing if the unit of internal inventory is the unvalidated decision. The fact that your VP of product management or marketing has decided that 20 to 30-year-olds who use Snapchat for 3 hours a day is the target market, that is an unvalidated decision. You don't know if it's true or false. Could be that it's 14 to 17-year-olds. That's a very different proposition because they're underage. So this is a hypothesis you need to validate. So this brings us to hypothesis-based development, very 2015, 16, 17 topic. Everybody's waiting on everybody. You get these bottlenecks. You study the bottlenecks. You apply all your lean stuff. You make the bottlenecks smaller. You balance the workflow. There's a long discussion. It's very interesting, but that's not for today. There's the revenue one, and we have a funding model where you look at money being spent, how early can you make a delivery to start getting a self-funding project through early income. You could do that, but that's not for today. This one is deliver for learning, so that normally, so what we're looking for is lots of little experiments, lots of little code checks in, lots of little deliveries, lots of little interactions to get the feedback. This is the delivery part. We're trying to learn about what business should we be in. I know we thought we were in that business, but what business should we be in? Social learning, how do we have the right people, and what does it take for them to learn to work together? Technical stuff, loading, performance, compatibility, all that stuff. And cost and schedule. How big is this problem? How much are we going to burn before we get somewhere, right? So learn early, learn often in these types of things. I like this one. This one, I'll read this one out loud for you guys. It came off of Twitter. I did a screen snapshot, and later I went and found out who had done this, but I'm going to read it to you. It's pizza delivery. And here's a text message to Brian from the pizza house, and it says, Brian, your next automated pizza delivery is scheduled for Saturday, February 25th at 12 p.m. To confirm, text yes. To decline, text no. Text help for help. And Brian, the bastard, writes back, thank you, Papa John, you handsome man. I shall call you the Carbs Vixen. And the response comes back, we're sorry, we didn't understand. Please confirm or decline. And Brian, the bastard, writes back, when I make love, I imagine you tossing some dough shirtless. And the response comes back, dude, our automated system isn't set up yet. This is a real person texting you. I make minimum wage. Please just tell me if you want the pizza. Brian's a genius, but he's also a bastard. So that's this thing about learning about business, right? They're debugging. So in the lean startup world, it looks expensive to have programmers coding stuff up, AI system to do. No, just hire somebody and debug this kind of nonsense, right? So programming and delivering programs looks more expensive for validating hypotheses than just hiring, part-time workers. In the collaboration area, I've got these collaboration cards that are the Shu level of things that you can do to enhance collaboration. You can get them from me. They're online or by request or something. And we use them in my advanced Agile class. But the one that I want to go after, just with my remaining minute or two, is this thing about motivation. And where I'm going to here, if my clicker works, is one of my favorite COOs anywhere in the world is Neil Nicolaisen, Salt Lake City. He's been CIO, CTO for decades. And he has this 2x2 that he draws, and I can't understand 2x2, so I made 2 islands with a bridge between them so I could understand. And he said in many places there's a command and control culture in which there's not much trust and not much ownership. And what we want for innovation is we have a lot of trust and a lot of ownership. And when you hear the word ownership, you might also hear guest leadership, right? This is a little bit where we're going. Now, in sociology, there's a thing they call Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X is autocratic leadership. Theory Y would match a little bit to guest leadership. But in the Theory X, it comes from the olden days in the 1890s and the 1920s. And, people, the assumption was that workers are lazy and you have to kick them to make them work. And if someone's shoveling coal and you go behind them and you go, faster, faster, the muscles contract and they go faster. But if you're doing mental work, it's not true. So the idea of Theory Y is that people are fundamentally motivated, and mostly you just have to give them a space so they can do the thing they're generally motivated to do. This is a theory from the 1970s. And it happens to fit creative work. Because if you're designing, a UI or a framework or whatever you're trying to do, and your manager comes by and goes, faster, faster, behind you, right? You freeze up and that's the end of that. So I call this push and pull, just short words, right? Push model is Theory X. Pull is where you create a space and then people pull. It's who's doing the pulling, right? It's not that the manager pulls the workers. No, the workers pull something, right? So it's a push versus pull. Now, here's a little thought experiment. If you look at a corporation, especially publicly traded ones, Wall Street and the stock market are fundamentally merciless. They don't care if everybody in the company has ulcers and gets divorced and whatever else. They just want to know that the share price is going up and dividends are happening. It's all they care about. So it's a very push model. So the CEO and the board of directors of a big company, they're getting pushed on. Okay, that's irrevocable. So that's theory X, push, control, domination, discussion. Down below, we're trying to create something with theory Y, with pull, with permissions, with freedom and stuff like that. And that means somebody has to be the umbrella that converts a push into pull. And we have that in our language. We talk about this manager created shade for us, acted as the heat shield, right? Protected us. We have all of this language for these poor people. So that's a fundamental thing that we're looking for. If you're a manager, what is the role of a manager? Well, one of them is to be the push-to-pull umbrella. And it's a pretty thankless job, quite honestly, because if you do your job perfectly, the people below, by definition, can never see that the pressure you're taking from above, right? So all of you who've been in that position. So those of you who've got a boss who gives you some protective shelter and some quiet space, like, be really thankful for that, because that's a hard job. But anyway, that's the push-to-pull umbrella. And it gets me slowly to the guest leadership question. And I just have here this thing of I have three kinds of leaders, basically. You know, I've been studying this leadership thing for about 10 years. It's beginning to make sense. I'll just call it leader 1, 2, and 3. They don't have meaning. They're just like tags. The leader 1 is your basic, what we think of as a leader. The purpose of a leader 1 is to say, that away, right? That's the assignment. That's the skill, the talent of a leader 1 is to indicate the direction and to get you in that direction, right? That's a leader 1. Leader 2 is a host, and there's a lovely book out called Host, and it's actually for more like managers, because the host at a party's job is to check the environment, make sure the food, the right people are invited, the conversations are going well, generally not to intervene too much, but intervene enough that the people are doing well by themselves. Well, that's a perfect description for a line manager or a project manager or something, is their job is to see that the people who are doing all the work have what's needed, the motivation, the skill, the whatever, so they can do the thing that they're hired to do, which is, create whatever. And then there's this leader 3, which is the momentary leader by somebody who's not officially in a leadership position, who, as you can imagine, now this starts to fit the theory Y, the pull culture, that people see something needs attention, like we have a build machine, we have dojos, we've got all these kinds of things. Who set up your first continuous build machine and why? That was a moment of guest leadership. So the question on my mind, the one that I was checking at the beginning, is just for us to start thinking about how do we set up cultures for that? How do we morph cultures, entice through pull? How do we entice more of this guest leadership thing? So at the end, just to close this down, you can expand this out. It's not the punchline. The punchline is not that it's complicated. Everything's complicated. The punchline is that it's simple. All you really have to do is hang on these 4 words: collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve. And I'm out of time. Thank you very much.